Hi guys, Ameya here and welcome to Want to Learn Programming. This is the 18th video in the series Basics of C Programming. In this video, we will look at what control statements are. Control statements, also called as loop control statements, are statements which change the execution of program from its normal sequence of execution. So we'll look at what these are in detail in this video. There are three most important control statements. First is break, which we have already encountered during the switch case. Second is continue, and the third one is goto. We will look at break and continue in detail, and we will also look at goto in brief. Break is used to terminate a switch or a loop statement and continue the execution of the program from the statement next to the loop or the switch. So in this break, we will look at the syntax first. It's just a break statement. So what happens is if you want to terminate the loop or the switch which you are executing right now, we have to include this break so that it will move over to the next statement after the loop. It will stop executing the loop and it will move to the statement after the loop. Let's look at how we use break in switch statements and in looping command statements. First, in switch statement, the break is used to terminate the switch statement, which is put after every case. The break will transfer the control to the next statement outside the switch. We have actually seen this in switch statement. After each case, that is case 1, case 2, case 3, we used to put a break statement so that after the case executes, we have nothing to do with the switch anymore. So we come out of the switch statement and come to the statement which is next to the switch statement. So it will transfer the control to the next statement outside the switch. Outside is the main word here. Next, let's look at how break is used in looping statements. When break is executed, when break is encountered in a looping statement, the loop is terminated and the execution is continued with the next statement outside the loop. For example, if we include the break statement inside a for loop, then what happens is that when the compiler encounters the break statement, it will quit execution of the remaining statements in the loop and will also skip all the other iterations in the loop and it will directly go to the statements next of the for loop. So let's look at an example where we are using this break statement in C. In this sample program, we use to print n numbers given by user and then terminate the loop if the given number is 10. So first we will receive input of n and then we will receive n numbers as input from the user. So if the number is not equal to 10, then we will print and then move on to the next number. If the number which is given by the user is 10, then we will terminate the loop. First, let's include the two header files hash include stdio.h and hash include stdlib.h. Next, we include the int main. So for this, we have to declare three variables. One is to store the value of n. One is to move the iteration from I equal to 1 to I equal to n. And the third one is to store the numbers given by the user, which we will use a x variable. So int I equal to 1, n for storing the value of n, and x to store the value of n numbers iteratively. Next, we ask the user to enter the value of n and then using scanf statement, we take the value. Next, we use while I is smaller than or equal to n so that the while loop will iterate n times so that we get n numbers from the user. Inside this, we will first use the scanf statement to receive the numbers from the user. So next we will have to include an if statement inside this while loop, that if x is equal to 10. That is, if x is 10, then we'll have to use the break command. So this, what this break will do is, it will move the execution outside the while loop. So if the x is not equal to 10, what we will have to do is, we'll have to print the number x and then increment the value of I, so that we can receive the next input. So this while loop will execute for n times, because we put the condition I is smaller than equal to n. It will execute for 10 times if the number given by the user 10 x is not equal to 10. If it is equal to 10, it will break and it will move to the next statement outside the while loop, that is return 0 in this case. So next, look at what is continue statement. Continue statement is used to continue with the looping statement by skipping the statements in the current iteration and going back to the condition. The syntax for continue is continue semicolon. So what this does is, this is a similar way, this is very similar to the break statement. But what break statement does is, it moves outside the while loop or the for loop. But what continue does is, it will skip the other statements present in that iteration and then it will go to the condition once again. So let's look at how this differs. For a for loop, the continue causes both increment and the conditional statement to be executed. As we know, in the for loop, the initialization, increment and conditional statement is given inside the for loop. So when continue is encountered inside a for loop, it will skip all the statements in the current iteration and it will go back to the for loop, increment the value present in the increment section of the for loop, and then check whether the condition is true or false. If it is true, it will execute with the statement. If it is false, it will come out of the statement. But for while and do while loops, the continue statement causes the conditional statement to be executed. As we know that the increment section is not present within the for condition, within the while or the do while statements, so it will only check the condition. So this is the difference between for loop and while and do while loops in case of the continue statement. Let's look at an example. Let's try a sample program to print n numbers given by the user and don't print if the given number is 10. This is a similar program like the break ones, but in break we were terminating the loop altogether, but here we will just not print the number if it is 10. First, we include the header files, that is hash include stdio.h and hash include stdlib.h. Next, what we do is, we use the int main command, that is the int main function. Next, to execute this program, we require again three variables, I, n and x. Remember, I is initialized to 1. Like the previous program, we ask the user to enter value of n, scan the value of n, and in the while loop statement, we write I is smaller than equal to n, so that the the condition, while condition loop, the while looping construct runs for n times. Next, we ask the user to enter a value into the variable x. Now what we will do is, if x is equal to 10, then we will first increment I, because we will, because in while loop the increment thing is not available, so we will directly increment I over here and then give the continue statement. If when the continue statement is encountered, it will skip all the other statements that come in this iteration, that is this section. The print, these two commands will be skipped. Now I'll tell you why these commands I have written. These two commands will be skipped and this continue will take it to the while condition. So if x is not equal to 10, then I will print the number onto the console and then increment the value of I. So why we increment here is because these two conditions are skipped. So we use the continue inside the if statement and write printf statement and I++ outside the if. So after the execution of the while loop, we will return the we will write return 0 to terminate the execution of this thing. Next, let's look at the goto statement. The goto statement is used to transfer the control to a labeled statement in the program. So the syntax for this is go to label, and here if we write some commands, it's statements, and then we can label a statement saying any label, for example temp. So if we label this like temp colon statement and write go to temp somewhere in the program above the label or below the label, it will go to that particular statement. It will jump directly to that particular statement. So let's look at these properties of goto. It is an unconditional jumping statement because it does not get into any conditions for that jump to occur. Labels can be anything except an keyword. The names of the labels can be anything except keywords that we had mentioned in the starting of the video series. Next, it is highly discouraged as the goto statement is very difficult to control. For example, if the label statement is somewhere above the goto label statement, then every time it encounters the goto statement, it will jump back to the label statement. So this might be a case wherein the termination of program does not occur and it infinitely gets into a loop. So if you like this video, click on like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching. In the next video, we will look at what are nested loops and what are infinite loops. Thank you.